Kawhi Leonard and James Harden team up to make sure we have a Game 7 in the first round. Will we have two? Which Rockets player will be most critical to forcing the Warriors back to Houston? Plus, we hand out first-round awards, and Gregg Popovich will remain with the Spurs organization, but not as head coach. We'll tell you more today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets, and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And I have two of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. We've got Matt Moore, and from the Locked On Bulls podcast, we've got Hayes. We have a lot of playoff basketball to discuss, and we will get to it in just a moment, but we got some breaking news from Shams Charania of ESPN shortly before we started taping at noon Eastern. Gregg Popovich will not return as head coach of the San Antonio Spurs next season. Instead, he will transition into a full-time role as the team's president of basketball operations. Popovich suffered a mild stroke on November 2nd and did not return during this season. Mitch Johnson has been serving as interim head coach. Popovich has already been involved in the Spurs offseason plans, sources tell Shams, and is making steady progress on his recovery. Matt, your reaction to this news?
You know, just honored to have gotten to watch him coach all these years. I think he's the greatest coach of all time. Other people can have their own selections, Red Auerbach, Phil Jackson, etc. But for me, it's going to be Pop. The longevity, the consistency of the program, the thoroughness of the success, the titles, the durability, and his place as a spokesman for the league on social issues. All those things contribute to me thinking that he's the greatest coach of all time. It is unfortunate that he doesn't get to go out peacefully, right, without a medical incident, but I'm glad that he gets to make that transition and still serve with the Spurs organization. And yeah, what an incredible career.
I was 9 years old when Gregg Popovich became head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. So basically, my whole time watching basketball, Pop has been the coach of the Spurs. He's had an amazing career. You can't take anything away from what he's been able to accomplish in this game throughout many different decades. And so it sucks that he didn't get to, go out technically on his terms, but I'm glad that he's still going to be around the Spurs and the president's still guiding that organization. And I couldn't, it's a great finish with the circumstances that you can consider.
Yeah, as long as he's been head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, he's actually been in the front office even longer, since 1994, and he will continue to do so. So that's great news, and our best wishes on his continued recovery. Let's shift gears to the playoffs. We will have our first Game 7 of the playoffs thanks to a 111-105 Clippers victory over the Denver Nuggets in L.A. The wall was rocking. It was loud. It was strong. But as Game of Thrones reminded us, a wall is only as strong as the men who stand behind it. Here's Locked On Clippers host Darian Vaziri on LA's two big watchers.
Kawhi Leonard. I talked about let's get a damn game when you shoot 20-plus shots. Well, he delivered. 11 for 22 from the field. So both our stars shot 50% on 20-plus shots. I mean, sometimes, you don't even need to big brain the analysis. Your stars just got to play better. And when you want to get specific, yes. I mean, I talked about working quicker off the catch. I talked about, going away from the double team. And while it still is more methodical than certain other guys, Kawhi Leonard, he was doing some of those things I was saying. Turning away from the double team. There was one turnaround where the double was coming. He spun baseline for it. He just looked to get busy quicker off the catch. And it was awesome to see the aggression where he looked like he was going to try to score almost every time he got the ball. And we did a good job being deliberate with trying to get Murray in the action. So this was the most, oh my God, we have playoff Kawhi game.
Hayes, Kawhi had 27, 10, and 5. James Harden, huge bounce back with 28, 6, and 8 in a playoff elimination game. Harden did it. who will be more important to the Clippers moving on into the second round, Kawhi or James Harden?
I mean, I think they both have to. You need them both together if they want to move into the second round. Them and Norman Powell. You have to have these guys playing at the level that they played last night, executing on both sides of the ball, especially Kawhi Leonard. The way that the heart that this Clippers team played with last night, that's what they're going to have to keep playing with. And they executed amazingly well. They frustrated the hell out of the Denver Nuggets throughout that game. So you're going to need both those guys as well as Norman Powell and some contributions off the bench if they're going to want to move into the second round.
I asked him for one player. He not only gave me both, he said all three. Need Norman Powell too. What do you think?
Well, first off, I was going to make Hayes pay off the bet for him saying 30 seconds of nice things about the Clippers for yesterday for Knicks Pistons, but saying the Clippers had heart, I think will suffice. All
right.
Honestly, like it's fine. As host of Locked On Nuggets, I have to reserve this because it's going to seem like it's just like a Nuggets thing. It's not. It's like, yeah, they made shots in Game 6. Congrats. Like, that's what happened. Is like they made a bunch of shots in Game 6.
Come on.
What gets overlooked is Norman Powell. I thought was great. Like the two biggest factors in this game were Norman Powell and Nick Batum. Ty Lue goes Nick Batum in the second half, and that made a huge impact in chunking up the Nuggets offense. He made big plays. His physicality really paid off. Norman Powell giving them the extra 20 points. Like, oh, this Kawhi game, like he didn't have 40. Like he had a good game, made some jump shots because he does that from time to time. We know that he's going to do that. We'll see if he does it in Game 7. But yeah, that's me. Like I honestly, here's a question. The Nuggets got to the free throw line very rarely. They gave up 23 points off of turnovers. The Clippers had strong performances from Kawhi and Harden and Powell. And this was a one possession game late in this game. I've been ready to bury the Nuggets for some time, but I gotta tell you, I wasn't overly blown away by this performance from the Clippers to survive and force a Game 7.
Well, here's another stat from Ramona Shelburne via ESPN Stats and Info. Nikola Jokic was 5 of 14 with Ivica Zubac as his primary defender in Game 6, including 1 of 8 in the second half. Matt, do the Nuggets or Jokic have a solve for this in Game 7?
Make the shots like Kawhi did. Just make the shooty hoops. A lot of this is that I will say the Clippers defense is showing Jokic a front that's causing him to hesitate. Like he pump faked out of so many open threes last night. He got better at this in 3 and 4 and then went right back to this again in 4 and 5 rather, and went right back to this in Game 6 where he's hesitating. And it's very rare that you can throw something in a Joker that makes him hesitate. But he's been hesitating. That is causing those misses, but also some of it's just like bunnies. It's just like tapbacks. He had a heave in this as well that I think Zoo was the closest defender. Like this matchup data is always a little wonky. Zoo's been great. Zoo's been awesome. Zoo's done the job. But if Jokic plays to the capacity that he has, then he's going to destroy him. And if he doesn't, then the Clippers are going to move on to the next round.
Hayes?
Yeah, I think Jokic is, of course, the key here. Like Zubac has played adequate enough defense on Jokic at times, and the way that the Clippers are guarding Jokic has been interesting to watch, to say the least. But Jokic is going to have to come out here in Game 7, and he's going to have to be the best player on the floor and make the Clippers completely adjust to him, which then is going to open up things for everybody else. They're going to go the way that Jokic goes in Game 7, I think. The Clippers are going to try to do everything they can to force Jokic to either be inefficient or to hesitate, like Matt said, but you're getting contributions from Russ. You're getting that. You had a solid game from Jamal Murray. Christian Braun made his shots. Like it comes down to how much they can slow down Jokic in Game 7.
Michael Porter Jr., though, 5 points, 3 rebounds in 24 minutes. How much of that is the injury to the shoulder? How much is that affecting him, Matt?
Most of it. Yeah. I mean, he literally can't. He's grabbing the ball on rebounds with one hand. That's how hurt MPJ is. After the game, he has to have somebody help him take his jersey off. Like it's bad. It was funny because he was plus 34 in Game 5, and everyone was kind of like hailing him for that. And I went back and watched, and it's mostly that Kawhi Leonard was assigned to MPJ so that he could rest. And so the Nuggets just put him in a corner and ran weak side action away from that. Like they just ran action on the other side of the court and kept him weak side, right? This game, they switched Kawhi Leonard off of MPJ, put Powell on him, and got Kawhi a lot more involved in the top of the offense. So those little kind of adjustments, I think, are really the implication here. If you just stay home on Porter, there's not much he can do. And the Wolves have kind of shown that, and other teams have kind of shown that if you respect him as a spacer. It opens up things, but you can also help off a little bit. And he's somewhere you can hide your worst defenders, which is what the Clippers got to finally in Game 6.
All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, Game 7, always an exciting way to end a series, but Jalen Brunson ended it pretty excitingly for the Knicks in Game 6. We'll talk more about the end of Knicks Pistons and give you a preview of Cavs Pacers opening up round 2 on Sunday, and we'll hand out some first-round awards later on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your professional CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center with all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. You can go beyond just managing money and start actually building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on streaming services. Spoiler alert, it was a lot. Now I budget smarter and I save more. And the best part is I don't have to use multiple apps. I just use Monarch to check my finances, track my spending, and plan out my long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Jalen Brunson's game-winning 3 sealed a series victory for the Knicks over the Pistons in a wild fourth quarter of big runs for both teams. I guess Jalen Brunson really is the clutch player of the year, Matt.
He certainly was last night. I think he was more of the clutch player of the month, and that's why he won that award. But God. Jalen in the playoffs is amazing. He is one of the, there's a certain curse word that begins with an M and ends with an R, and he is, to me, one of the baddest of those that you're going to find in the NBA playoffs. He is so built for these moments. He is so clutch. He is so consistent. There was a bunch of plays, including like a double reverse pivot underneath reverse. It was insane, the footwork they had to put on to get the shot up and made it late in the fourth quarter. Terrific shot, terrific move on Ausar Thompson. Got the little shoulder bump to get separation on him with a crossover. Huge shot, huge moment. Brunson's just that guy, Hayes. He's one of those guys that you can feel good when he's in that position.
Brunson is amazing. When he gets into that rhythm, he's so dangerous, and it just looks so it's just so fluid with him. It's just simple. He goes out there and he attacks. He's a player that's tough, regardless of him being the smallest player on the court or not. Sometimes, he's one of the toughest SOBs on the court at any point in time. Brunson, and what he did in last night's game, it's not just him. You can't just put a win just on one player, but he was pretty damn close to that last night with the way he performed down the stretch of that game. And the way that it ended, too, on that last shot, that three-point shot with him shaking off Thompson, it was crazy because Thompson had been guarding him pretty well up until that point in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I want to talk more about this Ausar Thompson guarding him and the substitution that was really interesting of Ausar Thompson in a moment, but I'm still trying to figure out, starts with an M, ends with an R, money shooter? Is that?
There you go. You nailed it, Doug. Got it.
You know what's interesting to me is that we talked almost all season when we talked about the Knicks, we started and ended the discussion with they're going to be powered by the two-man game. They're going to come and go as the two-man game goes between Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. But as this series evolved, it seemed to me to turn into not so much a two-man game, but just there's Jalen Brunson's game and then there's Karl Anthony Towns' game, and they weren't intersecting as much. Is that something that you noticed as well, Matt?
Yeah, I do think that I think Brunson has so much leeway on this team that he gets to kind of dictate a lot of this. And I do think the Pistons were, in some ways, a little less reactive to Brunson in terms of wanting to be we don't want to send help. We don't want to open up the offense for the rest of their shooters. So we're going to try and live with Brunson. And this is what's tough is it gets you in a position where you can win the game, and it worked. They had multiple chances to win games in this series with that strategy. But this is why having guys like Brunson so valuable is if they're good enough, they're able to take what is a small edge and get it, which is enough to get you past the next round.
Nice.
Yeah, I think they have more than enough to get into the next round and have success in the next round. It's going to come down to matchups, how they build off those matchups. Karl-Anthony Towns and Brunson, we've seen them play well together at times. I don't think it's like it's your turn, my turn thing, but maybe they needed a little bit of that in the series to kind of find their groove and find their momentum. Plus, just Tom Thibodeau, sometimes that's part of the problem with his coaching a little bit too. He's not the best offensive-minded coach, and I think that's some of those pains in that as well.
Knicks fans chanting, "We want Boston," and we have John Corrales of Locked On Celtics saying that the Knicks is actually the perfect matchup for the Boston Celtics. We'll have more on that matchup on Monday. I'm really interested in the Pistons side of this before we get away from this series, because young team with young star learning lessons, that's an obvious framing here, but there were a lot of turned heads and furrowed brows at the Pistons' experienced head coach, JB Bickerstaff, after this one. Here's one of the brow furrowers, Kuka Hill of Locked On Pistons, with more on one of Bickerstaff's curious end-of-game decisions.
He should have won this game by 7 points. Ausar Thompson, after being the best player, arguably the best player, second best player for the Pistons last game, follows it up with playing 22 minutes and 46 seconds in this game. The only player he played more minutes than was Paul Reed. He played less minutes than Tobias, than Duren, and Tim Hardaway Jr., who was 3 of 11, 1 of 6 from the field. Ausar Thompson being your second best player last 2 games, having this level of impact, playing 22 minutes, and then being subbed out, and it being such a baffling decision that you have every single person that was watching the game asking, why was he taken out? It's a baffling decision from JB Bickerstaff. I can't understand why. I just can't. I truly just can't. I cannot understand why they did this.
JB Bickerstaff has broken Kuka Hill. Hayes, I don't understand why he took Ausar Thompson out of the game either. It seemed to maybe possibly take him a little bit out of rhythm. It certainly got Jalen Brunson going down the stretch here. This felt like a series to me of which coach was going to tighten up more, because the story in Game 5 was not getting Jalen Brunson back out on the floor for crunch time minutes and Tom Thibodeau. We talked about that in the last episode. Did this series feel that way to you?
Yeah, for sure. Ausar Thompson should have played every minute that Jalen Brunson was on the court. It just is. Every minute that Jalen Brunson was on the court, just Ausar Thompson, especially as this game was how tight it was down the stretch of it, he should have been on the court every minute that Jalen Brunson was on the court to guard him. I'm not saying it had to be all Ausar Thompson guarding him on ball every single time, but Ausar is your best defender. He's your best defender. So it is a head-scratching decision made down the stretch of this game, especially when Tom Thibodeau, of course, played all of his starters almost 45 minutes in this game. Ausar Thompson should have been in that game a lot more.
I have a stunning number for you because, like I just said, the matchup data can be wonky and you got to take it with a grain of salt. However, Jalen Brunson was 11 of 15 on shots defended by Ausar Thompson in this series. 11 of 15. Wow. And the fact that it's only 15 shots probably tells you that one of the issues that they had was keeping Ausar in that situation. Think about it. He's the best defender on Jalen Brunson. Okay, but if he's bringing the ball up, you can't get the ball out of his hands to ball denial, which I think is one of Ausar's biggest advantages. And 2, you're just going to be running into a pick and roll situation, which means you've got your bigs retreating and you've got Ausar coming over the top, and Jalen's really good in that spot. So if you're trying to play offense for offense and you're trying to match that way, Ausar's not the best offensive weapon. He had huge game 5. Totally agree. Forced that game 6. He was massive. And the offense was better with Ausar on the floor in this series. It was 5.2 points better with Ausar on the court in the series. And he had a +6 on court, -5 off. I get the idea, but it wasn't the most consequential decision in this game. In reality, if Ausar was on him on the last possession and it didn't make a difference, that's what happens when you have great players. Ausar's a rookie. He'll have his time. I don't think that was the biggest cost here from JB Bickerstaff. I actually thought JB did a better job in this series, even though he had some bad moments, than he has in other playoff series. I think JB is getting better as a playoff coach, which is good for the Pistons.
Ausar, a playoff rookie, a NBA sophomore. Will the Pistons be back, or are we dealing with another Sacramento Kings situation, Matt? And sort of a question on that question, if they are going to be back, do they have to find Cade Cunningham more help? Does he need a second star alongside Cade?
Jaden Ivey, man. Jaden Ivey did not play in the series.
Yep.
If he plays in the series, the Pistons advance. I will go forever and ever believe in that. And whether Ivey gets moved for another star or whatever, they'll have more help next time that they go into the postseason. Isaiah Stewart's injury in this series, another big factor that wound up implicating things. The Knicks had he was injured for a possession or three, but not the same way that the Pistons had those kind of problems. The other thing here is with the difference with the Kings, Cade Cunningham, all due respect to De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, Cade Cunningham is much better than both of them. They're going to be back in the playoffs and they'll continue to build. They won't, we'll see. They might take a step back next year because that often happens when you make a big jump like they did, but they're going to be a playoff team for the next a long time.
Hayes?
Yeah, the Pistons aren't going anywhere. They'll be in the playoffs next year. I think through internal development from guys like Ausar Thompson, but then to Matt's point, also bringing Jaden Ivey back. Jaden Ivey would have been really important for this team with his ability to shoot and score as well. So I think the Pistons are going to be right back here. I don't know how much of a step back or forward that they take, but I would assume that I feel safe in saying that they'll come back next year. They'll avoid the play-in. They'll be in the playoffs to start off next year.
Coming up on Locked On NBA, we continue to look ahead. Cavs, Pacers open up the second round, and Warriors, Rockets, they're not done with the first round. We'll talk about both of those games, plus hand out some first-round awards on Locked On NBA. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. The Cavaliers and Pacers will open up the second round of the NBA playoffs on Sunday. Locked On Cavs and Pacers have a crossover preview podcast available today. Let's listen in.
Big picture, matchup, storyline, stat, whatever intrigues you the most when it comes to how this series will be dictated?
So I think what's going to intrigue me the most is what the Cavs do defensively against Tyrese Halliburton. I have no questions about whether or not the Cavs are going to be able to put up points. I think they can put up points on anybody because their offense is that potent.
The Halliburton part of it's fascinating because, last year when he was ascending really to All-Star and All-NBA status for the first time, he had to see all those coverages for the first time. Here comes blitzes. I don't know about that. Okay, they're trapping me here or that. And he took his lumps last year. So this year, those mixed up coverages don't mess with him as much, especially because he's such a good passer.
Part of the beauty of what the Cavs can do defensively is they have so many different guys that they can put on good guards or wings. They don't have a shortage of guys that they can try. Not saying all of them are going to find success, but Max Strus is going to spend time on him. DeAndre Hunter, Dean Wade, that group of guys will all defend Tyrese Halliburton at certain points in this series.
They might not have a shortage, but we still don't know the status of Darius Garland. He did practice on Thursday, but his status for game one still TBD. Hayes, how critical is a healthy Darius Garland to the Cavs getting past the Indiana Pacers?
I think he's extremely important. This is a game where the Cavs defense is going to be hugely important. Make no mistake about it. And I know Darius Garland isn't the most amazing defender, but you're going to have to keep them honest, the Pacers honest on the defensive side of the ball too. So having Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell and the balance that they bring as far as either one of them being able to go off at any time on the perimeter, that forces you to think about who you're going to put your best perimeter defender on between the two of those. Then you're going to try to have to live with eating and potentially killing you. So I think getting Darius Garland healthy, getting him ready to go for the second round series is going to be really important for this Cavs team.
Not important at all. I love Garland. It just doesn't matter in this matchup. You actually need more size versus the Pacers because that's one of their biggest advantages. Nesmith, Nembhard, Siakam. That's a big 2 through 4. That's a large combo. And Garland, because of how much the Cavs switch, if they can't switch with Garland, so they wind up having to play at level. When you play at level versus Tyrese Halliburton, that causes a lot of problems. Okay, so if they're able to put better defenders on the floor, they can probably switch this a little bit more often, live with Halliburton's offense and limit the passing so that they can stay home on the shooters. That to me, I think is actually more important. Garland can have a massive series and they can win this anyway. The Cavs are just much better. The gap here is actually not a tactical one. It's just the Cavs are a lot like the Pacers, but a lot better. And so if Garland's able to play and he's able to give them huge games, all the better. But they don't need him in this series to be able to win it. It's going to be about the functions. If Garland plays, but he struggles, or if Garland plays and has a good offensive game, but they're taking advantage of him on the defensive end, that leans into how Indiana wants to play their games. So I think that's a lot better. They do not need Garland for this one.
All right, tonight we get Game 6 of Rockets and Warriors. Here's Locked On Rockets with guest Ben DuBose of Rockets Wire with the player most critical to the Rockets staying alive.
Rockets, it comes down to Amen. He is their guy. They believe in him for a reason, especially early in Game 5 when he had some drives that ended successfully. Also got to the free throw line, made 8 of 9. That changes everything. I think they're above 80% in their wins this series from the free throw line, below 60% in the losses. That's a huge variable. But on top of Amen giving them a boost offensively for a team that is fairly mid on the offensive end of the court to begin with, I think it also gives him a little more juice defensively. We saw what he did against Steph Curry, ripping him several times. And honestly, from a Warriors perspective, it's Steph's performance that's been the big variable. In the 3 wins, he's averaged 28 points on better than 50% shooting. In the 2 losses, he's at 16% on below, or 16 points on below 40% shooting. Getting peak Amen Thompson, that's what the Rockets did not have in the first 3 games of this series. They started getting it in Game 4, almost stole the game because of it. They got it in Game 5, and if they have it again in Game 6, I think they'll have a decent chance.
Great analysis there on Amen Thompson's vital role with the Houston Rockets. ESPN's Tim McMahon has reported that while the Rockets are open to exploring a trade to bring in another superstar in the offseason, they have told other front offices that Amen is untouchable. Has this series backed up that idea for you, Matt?
Yeah, Amen is he's off the table 100%. To me, he is the guy for this franchise going forward. His combination of playmate, you can see it. Like, yes, the shooting is going to be a thing, but you can get there on that skill. His jumper is not broken. He's going to be the guy for the Houston Rockets long term.
He's going to be their best player, and maybe as soon as next year. So, yeah, if anybody's trying to make a trade for Amen Thompson, you hang up on him. You then drive over to their stadium and arena and just open hand smack the GM that called you on it. Because, no, you're not going to trade Amen Thompson.
Figuratively, right? You figuratively open hands.
If it's Nico Harrison, I think he deserves
a fist bump. Oh, boy. All right. Moving on. A quick prediction for this game. Are we going to Game 7 here as well, Matt?
No, the Warriors take care of business tonight. Home crowd. They let the Rockets get that one at home. They'll take care of business tonight.
My heart wants to pick the Rockets here, but my head is smart, man. So I'm picking the Warriors too.
All right, I'm going to give you some info that's really important. It's National Space Day today, so I'm picking the Rockets.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
All right, let's hand out some first-round awards. Let's start with the basics. Matt, who is your MVP of round 1? And we've been doing roll call on this show where we've been calling out role players who have been vital to some of these series wins. So give me your MVP and give me your roll call role player MVP of round 1.
I'll go Anthony Edwards for MVP, just for taking over the series, being the best player on the floor in the series with Luka and LeBron. That's going to be my MVP. For role player, I think Nick Batum actually has a really good case for this, but I'm actually going to go to Detroit, and I'm going to give some love to Jalen Duren, who I thought was really good in coverage and did a very good job in terms of what he was asked to do. First playoff series for him. Jalen Duren didn't get enough credit for how well I thought he played in these playoffs.
My MVP is going to Anthony Edwards for all the reasons Matt said, like him being the best player on the court in that series and being able to, in the team winning it 4-1. He's going to get my MVP. For my role player, Alex Caruso. Yeah, he's a former Bull. I may be front loading there, but like Alex Caruso and his defense was so important for that Thunder team. They would have beat the Grizzlies anyway, but I'm happy to see Alex Caruso be able to perform on a playoff stage because Chicago couldn't give him one.
I'll give some love MVP to Jason Tatum, who came back from that wrist injury and helped them fight off the Orlando Magic. I don't know if you can call Jaden McDaniels a role player for the Wolves. I mean, he's a starter. So 17.4 points per game, 6.4 rebounds on some pretty incredible shooting splits and a 65% true shooting percentage. He was amazing for the Wolves. Now, best moment of the first round is that does anyone have a candidate that is better than the Aaron Gordon finale oop that ended Game 4 of Nuggets and Clippers?
Pat Spencer headbutting Alperen Sengun in the fourth quarter of a give-up game for the Warriors, and Draymond saying, "My guys," on the camera after. That would be my only other candidate.
It was so good, it intimidated me into trimming my own mustache. That's how good that Pat Spencer shot was. Hayes, do you have a better moment?
I don't have a better moment. It would be the Pat Spencer moment, but I'm going to use that for something later on in the show.
Okay, let's give out some of our own awards. Hayes, kick us off. What award would you like to give out for round 1?
Oh, my playoff petty award that goes to Pat Spencer for the headbutt.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect transition.
Right there. The playoff petty award, because that was by far and listen, in a series with Draymond and Dylan Brooks in it, if you walk away with the pettiest moment, I think that's a win for you. There you go.
Petty Spencer. I love it.
I would
Matt,
I would also put Anthony Edwards doing the victory lap around LA after the game. That was pretty good from a Petty standpoint.
The best lap I've seen since Richard Petty. Matt, you got an award?
Yeah, I'm going to do the Vinny Del Negro Award for most out of his depth playoff coach. Shout out to VDN from back in the day. I hate to do this because I like JJ a lot, but it's JJ Redick. Got a little scrambled, not just what happened in game 4, but also if you look at just the demeanor, tightened up, got a little frantic. The press conferences were testy. It just seemed like a lot of the things kind of got to him a little bit. And it's a tough spot for him, I think, with the roster, but got to go. Like, Redick was a little bit over his head in this series. Chris Finch really worked him.
Yeah, he beat a crowded field because I feel like coaching blunders, just a big storyline overall in round 1. Not something that I expected, honestly. And also players not being able to catch a basketball in the final seconds of a game. We didn't talk about this with Pistons Knicks, but you had Malik Beasley, who would have, I think, had a great look at a potentially game-tying three-point shot, and just like Gary Trent Jr. from the Bucks before him, let the ball slip through his hands out of bounds. Tough. It's going to be a tie for a boner of the first round.
Yeah. Oh, I've got one more. Most delusional was John Morant saying, "We figured out the Thunder." If he wasn't hurt, they would have been like, "I love you, Ja. Come on, man. Come on, man. Lost by 50. Come on, man."
I'm going to do the playoffs are a 2K simulation, and that award is going to JJ Redick not going to his bench for the entire second half of a Game 4 loss. Like it felt like an online 2K game. Like, why aren't they going to their bench? They're just throwing this. They're just hammering this star, this LeBron James at me over and over again. I couldn't take it anymore. And then I have one more, the Don't Look Up award, and that goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were absolutely dominant in their series against the Miami Heat. And I feel like they are the asteroid or the giant wave heading to our shores. And some of us are just like, yeah, I'm just going to chill here. I've got to wait and see. I think I'm just going to stay here until the wave hits. But man, they are just a behemoth right now.
Cavs Thunder would be such a great finals. It'd be such a great finals, which is
we
why
don't deserve it, man. We don't deserve it.
We don't deserve it. We're not good enough for that. Best performance by a leading grifter, Jalen Brunson. Just disgusting grift work in this series. Like, there's a lot of floppers in these playoffs and in the league right now, and like Jokic has done it a lot in the series. But good God, Brunson had some gross ones. But it was very effective. So he gets best performance by a leading grifter.
And honestly, I think a lot of people would have put SGA as the favorite to that award. But I think another storyline from this round 1 is that he had, I would call it a muted performance relative to what we've seen from what is most likely going to be an MVP season for him. We'll see how he steps it up in the second round. And I think you have to hand it to Jalen a little bit, right, Hayes? I mean, with how loose the whistle's been, that's pretty good.
Real quick breaking news. The Spurs are hiring Mitch Johnson as the franchise's next head coach.
There you go. We'll have more on a Monday from Locked On Spurs, reacting to all of this news. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other, and we'll see you right back here next week on Locked On NBA.